This is Roger Struckhoff with Cloud Expo TV, day 2 at Cloud Expo. Thanks again for joining us live. Thanks if you're watching us on YouTube a little bit later as well. We're sitting here with Ryan Lockard with Contino. No, I blew it. Contino. Contino, like continuous services. I asked him, does it have to do with like continuous integration? Does it have to do with containers? He said yes. All the cool stuff. So Ryan with Contino, thanks for joining us. Now that we have the name straight, tell everyone what you do.
So yeah, Roger, you kind of hit on it straight out of the gate. We position ourselves pretty much as an enterprise cloud and DevOps consultancy. We work with some of the largest, most heavily regulated banks, insurers, healthcare companies, and everything in between. We help them bring about continuous integration. We help them lower their risk threshold by working on compliance as code, lowering the overall risk position within the large enterprises, and generally just helping them elevate their engineering culture within the organization. So lots of these organizations are sort of stuck in traditional operating models and SDLC patterns, and what we do is we come in a very much pair programming fashion and work with existing engineering teams to help bring the level of engineering in those teams to a higher ground, but also then work with the leadership team to make the localized tactical improvements realize strategic wins on the larger roadmap.
Oh, there's a lot going on in there. When do you jump into the fray? You try to engage people from the beginning, or this is a complex road. They get down the road and they may realize, oh, we have the tools, but whoa, we don't have the training, we don't have the culture. Do you jump in at that point, or when do you jump in?
So it like most transformational stories, it's a journey, right? So working with the size organizations that we typically work with, we're not coming in their first go. They've tried to do it locally. They've tried to do it with internal coaches. They've maybe gone out to some of the big four and tried to buy the slideware to bring about the transformation. So we're coming in at various different starting positions. We work with greenfield, with brownfield, with teams that have gone through trainings, with teams that have never even really heard of pipelines and cloud migration. So we really meet the clients and the teams where they are. So if it's a brand new team of individuals that never worked together, or if it's a team that's been doing the same thing for 15 to 20 years, we hire and employ and bring about the most intelligent consultants in the world. I say that without hesitation, so that we can come in and meet people wherever they are in the journey, if they're just starting from start or if they're already running at 100 miles an hour.
You mentioned pairing, and let's tell the audience a little bit about what that is, because if you've been doing pairing for a while, it's like you understand it, you get it, and it seems obvious. But a lot of people only now are starting to discover that's the way you sort of take Agile the next step. What is pairing? How does it work? And how are you guys doing it with your customers?
Right. So pairing, it's not a new concept. It's actually been around for as long as we have. But in the world of technology and programming, it comes from the extreme programming movement that was really calcified in the late 90s, early 2000s. But more and more, we're seeing pairing as a really good way of teaching and lifting capabilities within engineering teams. And whenever I talk about what pairing is, I just remove technology from the conversation. When you learned how to tie your shoe, right, it wasn't a checklist that somebody gave you at 2 or 3 years old and said, here's how you tie your shoe, go off in the corner, figure it out, and let me know when you're done. You usually have somebody like your mother, your father, your teacher, somebody standing there with you, telling you when you're doing the over, the under, the around, and through, and saying, hey, listen, you missed that last step. You need to go around and then through. So you're getting instant feedback loops from somebody that understands the practice. We take that concept and we employ it in the engineering space. So we bring in some highly skilled engineers, people that do work. They roll up their sleeves. They get into the IDE. They get into console. They get into your data center, and they help you really understand what the starting position is. And they pair with your engineers. They sit with them shoulder to shoulder, usually in person, with 2 monitors, 1 keyboard, 1 mouse, and we talk through the design as we make the changes so that there's instant feedback loops. We know when we're inside the safety parameters and outside the safety parameters. We're also talking about better practices, about writing unit tests, about making sure that we have linting and logging and monitoring established so that when we make decisions now, we realize if the system ever drifts away from what we consider to be secure. From an engineering perspective, pairing is probably the fastest accelerator that you can have to understanding new capabilities and new technologies, and that's what we bring in. Typically, we start with small teams. We have about 3, 4, 5 Contino engineers sitting with about 7 to 10 of your engineers, and that allows for us to do pairing. And one step above pairing is mobbing, where you have 1 or 2 people working with a group of 7 to 10 other individuals, and collectively you're talking about the changes in real time.
I'm so glad you mentioned mobbing because I was going to mention it, and I wasn't sure if that's because that is the next step. And I just watched a great presentation at an event about it. Let's talk about that a little bit. This is intense. And I remember some of the rules are there's only one screen,
Yes.
and everyone gets a chance, and you have to have breaks. But there's some and the breaks come. You have to be. It's like super disciplined to get this to work, as I understand it. How does that work?
Yeah, so there's purists. So Woody Zool and a guy named Llewellyn Falco are really the mob programming thought leaders. They run the mob programming conference and everything. So if you ever want to learn anything about hardcore dogmatic, what mobbing looks like, those Llewellyn Falco and Woody Zool.
Yeah.
Ryan Lockard is a friend of those guys, but he's not. I'm not in the forefront of this is thou shalt do this. But realistically, you're right. You start with one monitor, one keyboard, one mouse, and you have a group of people. Environmentally, it's important to make sure that you have a safe, stable space where the most important thing is audio, being able to hear everybody's conversation. What we're doing is we're taking the engineering concepts in our head and we're expressing them with our mouth, which sounds simple when you say it, but it's very difficult to do in practice. Also, you're dealing with multiple people that have different opinions of how to do the if statement, right? So giving an opportunity for people to have the safety to talk, one person clicking and typing, that person doesn't generally speak. They're just basically an input mode for the rest of the conversation around them. Typically, you have a really strong facilitator that makes sure that the bounds of the ritual is being respected, and that everybody's being heard. Because sometimes the smartest person is also the quietest.
That still waters run deep, and so you're dealing with some financial services companies. They're heavily regulated, so you combine intensity at both levels. You got to move the speed of light, but you also you got to be careful not to break certain things. So this sort of intensity sounds to me like it's great for those customers. But would you say that intensity or a measure of it really should be applicable to all companies that are trying to go down this journey?
So everything I talked about is not industry specific. What you end up running into with the large, heavily regulated companies is more of a, hey, pump the brakes a little bit. These pipelines sound really great, but we can't move that fast. And what they're actually saying is we need to make sure that we're being secure with our applications and our data. We need to make sure that risk profile is being managed. So how do you do that? Well, it's probably not going to surprise you to hear I'm going to say you do it with code. So what we end up doing is we pull that risk into the pipeline, and we build out things like compliance as code frameworks. We build out infrastructure as code. We make sure that the security is folded into the pipeline itself, so that if you're working in financial services, that you're not compromising your data, because when you do that, really, really bad things happen. And to be fair, some of our engagements start because really, really bad things happened, and they're asking for us to help harden those pipelines to mitigate them going forward.
Okay, for those of you who have not had something bad happen, or who have had something bad happen, or would like to speak to Ryan and the company further, how do they contact you? What's your website, and how else can they see you?
So I'll be fortunate enough to be speaking this afternoon on a serverless-based CI/CD pipeline where we treat tools as commodities and not as hard-fixed pipelines. But you can find Contino at contino.io. I have a very easy email. It's just my first initial, last initial, rl@contino.io. You can find me on Twitter, _Lockard, and you can definitely find me on LinkedIn and the other things as well, I'm sure.
Cool. You're going to have to do it. You can pay me now or you can pay me later, as they used to say. Ryan, thanks a lot for joining us. If you're watching live, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. For Cloud Expo TV, this is Roger Struckoff. Okay, this is Roger Struckoff. We're live again at Cloud Expo, second day, reporting for Cloud Expo TV. I'm sitting with Kihyeon Kim from Cloud for You. We talked a year ago, and we were just talking about, oh yeah, I remember, and this and that and the other thing. Okay, a year ago, they were just starting out, I think, and I'd like to find out, after I welcome you, what are you doing now? And welcome, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very delighted to, enjoy this show again.
Thank you.
And actually, we have evolved from the last year. So we integrated a lot of feature right now. So we also have, we prepare to launch our services as online maybe early next year. Yeah, last time I talked about launching a service, we haven't since some of my customer actually want us to install our software in their, site. So we were doing that, but yeah, we are now to launch our service online. So yeah, you can see us maybe early next year. Yeah.
Okay, and again, let's tell people, what is the big idea about your company? Why are you doing this? What is Cloud for You?
Actually, what we are doing is that transforming the user experience from text-based web console to graphical all-in-one environment for cloud platform. So if client was use our platform, all they have to do is they drag and drop icon into canvas, then the client can draw their system diagram, a software diagram, or even a container diagram. Then we create those systems on cloud you prefer, usually Amazon or OpenStack. Then if you try to update their system, what they have to do is they just modify the document. Then their system reflect the modification, and yeah, it's all set. They're ready.
So the whole thing with cloud computing is you have your infrastructure, and years ago, people used to say this is going to be easy and simple. No, it's not. Cloud infrastructure can be very difficult. So a lot of people now are going above that level and trying to remove some of the work, automate some of the work, and then you keep going up. It sounds like you're going up there, so your users will be able to take advantage of cloud computing, everything it offers, but not really worry about what's going on underneath. Just focus on their work. Is that correct?
Right, that's right. So what usually I see in the market is that, even the Amazon people have hard time to communicate with each other since their system is on the web-based, and it's most of the system is actually written in text. So what they do is that they draw a diagram about their system and send it as an email. But if they are using our system, all they have to do is they design their system using our system. Then they can share it as a document, and they can implement it instantly, and they can even update their system, just by modifying, updating the document. So it is pretty easy. And we also have a feature to, measure the KPI and visualize the trends. So it's much better. Our system is like all-in-one environment. So you can manage your cloud actually in one place.
And where can they, when you're doing the big launch, are you online now? How can they find out more about Cloud for You?
Yeah, you can reach us maybe not online, but we currently provide our software as an installation basis, but we are moving into online services. So I guess you can find us maybe January or February in online. Okay. Yes, and you can see us maybe in Amazon website, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Cloud for You, thanks for joining us again, and I really look forward to it. Let's do it again, because this sounds like it's something that's going to be very revolutionary for a lot of people that want to take advantage of the cloud, but they really want to focus only on their work and also find out, like you said, some of the KPIs and metrics. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for watching live. Thanks for watching on YouTube. For Cloud Expo TV, this is Roger Struckoff.